Happy Wednesday morning. Thank you for joining us here in FRC Media. I'm Keith Tebow. Time for our Wednesday chat with Mayor Paul Coogan of the city of Fall River. Mayor, how are you today?
Doing well, Keith. How about you?
I'm doing well as well. The Fall River had its first, I guess, plowable snow event yesterday at the last day of February. Overall, how did the city make out?
I think the city did very well. I mean, obviously, we did some brining work the night before, and then we had salt trucks out and plows going, as you said. And I think it was very little disruption in anybody's commute in the morning. I think I was out at 5:36. The streets were already in pretty good shape, and it was I like to say that it was like a warm snow. It didn't have a driving wind with it, and it wasn't 15 degrees. And we didn't get all that much, 3 or 4 inches. We can handle that. So I was very pleased with the efforts at DCM and our public safety people to keep the city rolling at full tilt.
Yeah. In terms of a lot of people were talking on Monday prior to the storm whether the city would issue a parking ban. The city did not. What goes into setting up a parking ban and when to implement it?
A lot of discussions. We know in some sections of Fall River, and I made it a point yesterday morning to drive down around like Mount Hope Street, Mulberry, so what I call congested neighborhoods where we have a lot of multifamily residences right next to each other, and see how we made out without doing the parking ban for the convenience of the residents. You know, those are tight parking areas on a good night, and then to have people only be allowed on one side is stress. And again, I'm not saying we're not going to be doing parking bans. If there's a significant snowstorm or something that we think could threaten public safety, we're going to definitely do a parking ban. But at the same time, when you have 3 or 4 inches of snow like that, I think we can maneuver around that okay. And as I said, when I was going down Mulberry, it was fine. I mean, those streets had a clean path down the middle, and people could pull out of their parking spots on either side. And that's what you look for: is it convenient for the residents, and is it safe for them? And that's I think that's our criteria. And as I said to you before we came on the air, we watch every weather report we can right up to the last minute, and then we decided to roll the dice and make sure. I mean, if that thing had flipped and it would be 8 or 9 inches of snow, you'd be in here saying how much longer you're going to be in office, Paul, because you put the city at risk. But it worked out to the best.
Yeah. And it's always one of those things that it will be on a case by case basis. But, how was in terms of the participation in terms of cleaning crews? I know we've talked about this in the past. The city was looking for more vendors. How did that work out?
I think we had like 40 private trucks going. The rest of the trucks were ours, city vehicles. So we didn't bring in all that many that we had signed up. But it was, as we haven't spent that much money on snow removal this year because we really had barely any snow. So we were well within our budget. And again, we wanted to stay on top of this one and try to use some of our more pickup type trucks that we could for the streets to maneuver a little easier. And it worked out for the better. So we're not in a bad spot. It could have been one of those winters where this is our eighth or ninth storm, and I tell you, we've already exceeded the budget, and we're looking for trucks again. And we're trying to, in the bad storms, you're literally trucking the snow out. We have nothing like that this year. So we've been very, very fortunate.
Yeah. All right. Next item up for discussion. Last night, the Fall River City Council approved the agreement between the city and the Police Patrolmen's Association. It is a long-term contract. There's some retroactive payment in there, as well as pay increases moving forward. In your mind, what are the general items in there that make this attractive for the city, and also as a way to hopefully recruit and retain a lot of police officers? Because we've talked about before, that has been an issue here in Fall River.
Yeah, it is an issue. I mean, if you look at Essex County House of Correction, they announced yesterday that they're now going down to 19-year-old age limit for their new correction officers. The pay is around $68,000, which is still probably $7,000 or $8,000 more than we pay a starting policeman for a job in a county house of correction. You can't get people right now. So we made sure in our negotiations with the police, we made sure the city got some adjustments on body cameras. We wanted those to be front and center. I think that's going to be a gift for the residents of this city and for our policemen to know that our policemen are safe and our residents also understand that they're being recorded so that when they say things, we can follow up and make sure we do what they ask us to do. I think that's going to be a godsend. I think cutting back on the comp time is a godsend, but I also think bringing our officers in line with our neighboring communities is going to be a godsend. Since we've done this, we've already had a couple of people, I believe, coming over from Rhode Island, a couple of veteran police officers. We've had a couple of people pull their retirement papers. I'm hoping it's reflected in our next class. And part of that is also our ability now to not charge our new recruits $8,000 or $9,000 for training equipment, for uniforms, for all their gear. We cover that now if they stay with us for a minimum of 5 years. So there's some things in there for the city, for the police, and I think it's a win-win situation. Does it cost us money? Absolutely, but that's what you need to get caring, competent officers on the street that are going to make the city safer for all of us. It's the way it is. I was reading the other day, New Bedford went to a $5,000 sign-on bonus. Okay, well, what we did was we took away the expense of $8,500 from our new recruits. So everybody's trying their best to get people into the profession that you want to be policemen. You don't want to get the leftovers of these people that are marginal. They can't pass, as the chief was talking about, the fitness test. You want people that want to be policemen, that are geared that way, that's what their vocational calling is. Let's help people. Let's be public safety servants. And that's what we're looking for. And I'm hoping this works towards it. I think you saw a great first step last night when it was almost unanimous on the vote with the council. And I'm very, very pleased that we are moving this down the road. And I'm very, very pleased that we're going to get our body cam program rolling. And I feel like I've been talking about it for 2 or 3 years, but I'm glad we came to a consensus with those guys.
Any timetable on when the body cameras will be fully implemented? Do you know?
I believe we have some of the equipment in right now. We've already done that, and I'm hoping that I can talk to the chief later today and see what our timeline is. Obviously, there is training involved that everybody would have to get. We don't want people, just turning them on and running around. We want people to know how to properly use them to ensure the safety of the public and to ensure the safety of the officers. And I believe that it's a good step for the city of Fall River.
All right. And finally, this week, later on this afternoon, as we're recording this, Governor Maura Healey is going to be taking the wraps off the fiscal 2024 state budget. Last week, she issued a statement saying that there will be more money for local cities and towns, primarily in terms of education, fully funding the Student Opportunity Act, as well as an increase in general local aid for the city of Fall River. I believe in Fall River's case, it could be upwards total of close to $20 million, with a huge portion of that going to education. How can this work to the city's advantage?
That's a good question. Obviously, the Student Opportunity Act is really rocketing our schools to a place where they're hopefully able to get these scores under control on our standardized testing and our kids learning at a level that we want them to be at. It's a great investment. But at the same time, it comes with an edge to it that's going to cost the city a few $1 million, again, in a budget that's pretty tight. So what we have to do is work with Kim Driscoll and Maura Healey to let them understand that, while the rest of our budget goes up at whatever it is, 4 or 5%, our school department commitment to the Student Opportunity Act is a 20% increase. I think that's where there's some inequities that we can address with them. And I've had text messages and conversations with both Kim and Maura about this. And again, when you float a budget out like that, they're both, obviously new to the State House, but that's going to go to the House, to the Senate, to a conference committee more than likely, and back to them where they sit down and have input on different things also. So at the same point, it's a great first step. I'm glad to see they're hitting the ground running, but there's some things that we want in that in that budget, and that I think can help the citizens in this city. And we're going to push extremely hard for it. As I said, I was already having conversations with them last week about it, and we're going to work. We're going to work to do what's best for the city of Fall River.
All right. Sounds good. As always, Mayor Paul Coogan, thank you for your time. We'll talk again next week. Take care.
Okay, Keith. Thank you very much.
All right. And thank you for joining us, as always, in FRC Media. Have a great week.